the concept of paying yourself first has been around for a very long time.
Yes.
A lot of people talk about you got to pay yourself first, but people don't really know how to do that. It seems so simple, but yet it's so ambiguous that they're like, they get stuck on what the how is. Well, the how is really simple. For people that maybe don't know, one of the things I like to chat about every once in a while is the Kolbe Index, Kolbe, Kolbe. If you're not familiar, you can go to Kolbe, I believe it's Kolbe.com, and you're looking for something called the Kolbe A Index. And I don't know, there's like 36 questions or something you answer. And people like to refer to it as like a personality assessment. Man, I got to really work on, I'm using a lot of air quotes lately. I can't help myself. Something about like the camera, and I'm like, what does it look like when I frame my head like this? Is this a bunny rabbit? Do you remember on SNL? I think it was Chris Farley. He was the guy, his name was Bennett Brower. He would do on the weekend updates, and he'd be like, so what if I don't use deodorant and brush my teeth regularly? Anyway, sometimes I do that in client meetings. But talking about the Kolbe Index just really quick, and then we'll talk about IBC stuff. But both Vern and I are high quick start. So there's kind of 4 measurements of, how you do things. And Kolbe isn't really personality related. It's more about instinct. It's your instinctual, natural way of doing things, of attacking a project or, completing a task, etc. And so Vern and I are very high on the quick start index. So whenever we hop onto a call, a lot of times, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Hit go button. Let's go. Let's get started. And then it just kind of develops from there. So it ends up being fun and engaging, and it's a varied amount of activity and discussions that can happen, which usually there's some ideas that get generated in a conversation like that. Would you say?
Yeah, I wish I could say, Rich, that I don't occasionally over leverage my quick start, but I certainly do. But I'll tell you, thanks for sharing that with me back in the day when I first discovered it, because I mean, procrastinators are killer for everybody, but particularly for you and I, these quick starts out there. If I don't have a plan in place to take the action, or if I don't take the action immediately, consider it's not going to get done. Procrastination is a killer for me.
Which is funny, because we just finished an amazing podcast recording with one of our teammates, Niffer, which was a ton of fun. So can't wait for that episode to come out. But one of the things you mentioned before we kind of started the call, we were doing like a bit of a positive power up, which is something that we do frequently at the Ascendant organization. And you were indicating that, hey, you kind of burned in the midnight oil last night, and you basically smashed out a whole bunch of backlog of work, right? Because we have meetings. A lot of times we're doing meetings, this back to back meetings. And you do that for like 2-3 days straight. It can be a little taxing. You're on Zoom, you're sitting in your chair, you're at a stand-up desk, and it's just nonstop meeting to meeting. And then there's a lot of tasks that get created as we're helping people implement this process in their life. Yeah. And, but you need to have time carved in your calendar to start really working on that stuff. You got to do a needs analysis. You got to prepare, some illustrations. You got to think on what you learned in that client meeting, and okay, how can we structure and plan? Like there's some really, really intense focused effort that has to go in, and it's a lot of thinking work, right? But it takes time, and we got to put that time in, because how we're helping people is what matters. And is that, you're using reminders with that thing? What are you doing with that?
No, what I do is when I finished my last client meeting last night, I had dinner with my family, and I said, hey, what do you guys want to do? Dad's going to put in some midnight oil tonight, or I'm working late Friday, or possibly Saturday morning. What do you think's best? They're like, Dad, go crush it. I'm like, cool. So I put on like shorts and a t-shirt, got comfortable, grabbed my, Spotify playlist. I turned on my Bluetooth, and I just like blasted the music, and it's like I'm in my zone, getting everything taken care of, right? So that's why I showed my speaker. That helps, pump the energy up.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what? And that's the thing. You've got like a little mental trick to help you get through that. But it's enjoyable, but it becomes more enjoyable to do it that way. And you don't have to kind of be, front stage necessarily. You're not on with people at that moment, but you're working on really critically important things. And even I find, yesterday I had a pretty busy meeting, and, because of my quick start and other Kolbe related activity, people who have meetings with Richard, they start to learn real fast. Richard's not so good at watching the clock. It's a real downfall of mine. So I'll even begin a lot of my meetings like, just so you know, heads up, I tend to not pay attention to the clock at all. And some of my meetings tend to go long because I just get so ingrained and engrossed in what we're doing, our conversation and like the thinking and the planning and the discovery and the questions that get asked. And I just kind of lose myself in that activity. because it's not only is it highly enjoyable, but we're accomplishing something, we're working on something really important, and then all of a sudden, like, I get a reminder pop up and they're like, oh, your next meeting starts in 5 minutes. Like, oh, right,
I gotta go.
Let's wrap this up very quickly. And so, that's part of my nature, and it has been beneficial for me, but it also has counterbalance of where it's not as well. So, I recognize that it's something, we're all a work in progress, right? We're all trying to get better in areas of our life, and that we want to improve. And that's an area that I'm always seeking improvement. Sometimes I find like little Jedi mind tricks that work for a little period of time. Like, these are not the droids you're looking for, but they don't always work, or they work for a limited amount of time. And then I have to I need some other Jedi to come and like get me back on track. So, but interestingly enough, on that very same topic, I was talking with a good colleague of mine the other day, Jimmy, and he's, really good guy, he's an amazing coach. And he's talking about, the power of habits, and a couple of books that he's read, one of them, Atomic Habits. And it's been on my list for a long time. I haven't got to it, but actually smashed through most of it on audiobook over the last 3 days. So back on Audible. It's been a hiatus since I've been doing that, but I'm back on it. And it's good to hear, like these little small intricate things that we do that create habits that have a really powerful effect in my life. And it's the small thing that leads to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I was thinking, as I'm listening to the book, and I'm trying to implement some new, morning routine habits. Routines are very difficult for me in that let me rephrase that. I'm going to change my language. I have not prioritized routines in my life because they're kind of the antithesis of what my Kolbe says I should do. It says I should not be routine oriented in any way. And that usually works out all right for me. But there's certain areas where I really want to have a little bit more routine. So I'm focusing on some new morning habits for myself. And I'm really happy about how it's going. But as I'm doing that work and I'm thinking about this book, I'm thinking about the habits that are important for IBC, the habits that we're teaching and helping our clients learn and understand, and having, discussions with them on a regular basis, or having them embrace the content that we're producing so they can really embrace those habits. They're going to watch a video from, Sarblo or Roman or yourself or Jinjin or some, Jason or some other member of the team. And there's like some comment that just sparks them, like, that's the little nudge that I needed to improve that one thing a little bit more efficiently.
It happens. Rich, I'm so pumped. I'm so grateful for the team. I'm so grateful that I'm not the one who has to do all that on my own, because just yesterday I met with my client and they were referring to maybe a couple of videos that I was a part of or that I recorded. But just like what you said, they actually know our teammates. They're dropping other people's names and say, oh yeah, Roman did this video and he said this, and man, that really got me thinking. That's why I booked this meeting today. Like, how good is that, right? Like that is so good. And you're right about the habits. I'm with you with that. I struggle. I find it sometimes challenging to really create those routines and habits. I've often said this to you, where I'm really good at following a process. I'm not really great at creating the process. So I think, is that the follow through? Is that on the Kolbe report? Is that the follow through? I'm not sure, but I'm good at following the process. But if you ask me to create the spreadsheet or do this or do that, that's another reason why I'm grateful for the team. In fact, I showed on a video today. I just recorded with Roman earlier, so make sure you go to Banker's Vault. Eventually this one will be getting processed and posted. I can't remember. I don't know when it's going to get posted, but we recorded the top 5 money leaks for Canadian families. And so we talked about the things that can have you leak money and that you don't even maybe notice it. But more importantly, what are some systems and processes that you can put in, of course, tied in with the process of becoming your own banker, but how can you actually tighten up those money leaks and make sure that money is being accounted for and flowing back to your family system? But it's one of those things where I have my own policy loan tracker. I update it on a monthly basis, and I'm so committed to it. It matters to me. And when things matter, you prioritize the time, just like what you're doing with the Atomic Habits, and you recognize that, hey, there's probably some benefit for me to create some kind of a morning routine, right? So same with managing your system or whatever, right?
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because in our client portal, for anyone that's a client of Ascendant Financial, we have a client membership portal. Many people will be familiar with it. And there's a ton of, not only is there a boatload of content in there, there's also a ton of like kind of templates and resources. And so there's links to access a loan amortization that we recommend you use to build an amortization, or we're going to take a policy loan. How do you want to set repayment terms? You control all these things, but the act of opening it, of printing it, of making that happen,
Totally.
doing that step is telling your brain, this is important, and here's a commitment that I'm making. We have a loan commitment template that we've built where you can write down, hey, Richard took a policy loan from this policy and this policy, and this one was $3,000, this one was $10,000, and so it's $13,000. I'm applying this to, and there's like check boxes. So what are you putting it towards? It's like repayment of debt. I'm recapturing this. I'm buying a car. I'm making an investment. I'm buying Bitcoin, like whatever it is that you're doing. And then there's a big other box, and you just fill in whatever it is, so get specific with that. And then how I intend to repay this back is by doing blank. And there's a couple check boxes. And so then there's like a page 2, which is just like, it's like bullet points of things to remind yourself and be aware of. Don't steal it. There's a picture of a can of peas right on it. And you can sign and date it. And so we've been trained over our life that when you sign your name to something, that is usually important. You're making a commitment. You're signing a contract, usually, mortgage contract, real estate purchase contract. Like, these are things that are really important decisions where you sign your name. And so the act of doing that is just one little kind of habit. And when you're talking about being your own banker, those little things matter, and they compound and they build up. And then you start to see, okay, maybe you have kids and they're seeing you to take a policy loan. You want to start talking about the family bank. Well, now you go to the file folder and you pull it out, and like, boom, here's all these loan requests stapled together with a loan commitment and an amortization. These are all policy loans for the family bank. Here's, we bought the hot tub with this. We bought the RV with this. We went on our family vacation with this. And now you have like all this data that you can use to have really cool and powerful conversations that support the financial growth of your whole family.
Yeah. And you can actually, to that point, I'm actually using, I don't want to name drop here, but a client of ours, I think it's specifically Sarvalo's client, but you know what I'm referring to. So from that last client coaching session, Sean, that last client coaching session on May 15th, we're building a community here. People, sometimes they start implementing this process, or they hear about it and they go, hey, Richard, how come I've never heard of this before? And they assume that no one's doing this. And this is like out of nowhere. They're the first person who's going to get a policy and start accessing loans and banking this way. But we have literally thousands of clients across the country amongst our team who are practicing and implementing the process, not just the guys over here that tell you that, the guys and gals that tell you that it's a good idea. And this is what I've been able to do. My clients are achieving objectives every day. And so we get together on these client coaching sessions, and the team is there to coach and share advanced case studies or different ideas and different ways that you can implement the process and expand your system and so on. But now we're starting to get clients who are totally embracing the concept. And if they weren't already successful in the lane that they are in right now in life, they'd probably be here coaching people to implement it. And we've had clients come on. Sean did a great job, like a 25-minute video where he showed how his own policy loan tracker that he created, and there was a couple hundred people or 100 people on the call, and everybody was like blown away by the way that he manages his system and it makes his loan repayments and does it on a very scheduled, diligent way, including me. So again, being good at following a system, not so great at necessarily creating them. Guess who downloaded that spreadsheet and is now using that policy loan tracker as an excellent tool to make sure that I'm accountable to those money leaks, those expenses that can come up, the AC unit, the Calgary Stampede, the Blake Shelton concert. Those are all paid for by policy loans. And it's really easy to trick yourself to think just because I put lump sums of cash in my policies here and there, that's really me being, it's kind of like escapism. It's like me, using my quick start, whatever. It's easy to slam cash into a policy, but am I actually being diligent as a banker? I issued my family a loan to go do that thing. So did I create a loan repayment schedule to be accountable to make sure that I'm not stealing the peas? I'm putting back more than what I use. So I'm using a specific policy that I pulled the maximum loan out to recapture some debt. And now I've got my policy loan tracker, and I'm taking those specific payments. I put other cash in other places in my system, but that specific payment right now, it's up to about $4,000 a month for my loan repayment schedule that I have. I'm putting it specifically in a segmented policy that had $0 to borrow out of it. But now I can actually, I like watching it, but now I get to walk my clients through my own tracker, and I can show them, hey, I took the policy loan on this date. Can you see that there was nothing there to borrow as of that day? And then now I've put back, $4,200. Well, how much can I borrow? They're like, oh, you can borrow like $5,000. Do you see why you want to become your own banker? It's because I'm putting it back into a system I own and I control, and that cash is growing every single day. So I've been pretty excited about that process that I just started to implement here the last couple of months.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that was an amazing presentation. And again, it's available in our client portal for clients of the firm, which is fantastic. And there's many other ones, and there's great conversations about family banking. We've had certain videos that we've been able to play and then talk through and discuss. And I think a lot of the real value comes from those open discussions that we have. And we try, I mean, it's all technology. I mean, we're not like technology wizards or whatever, so you try to do a breakout room in Zoom. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we try to get some engagement and community building opportunities in those sessions as well. And I'm excited because I think our next one's scheduled around the end of September, if I remember correctly. And and then we're also planning a big event sometime in October in Edmonton. I don't remember the date offhand, but I believe we're going to be doing a good event for both for our clients and I think also for the general public, which will be a lot of fun. It'll be good to be together with our team because we all work remotely and virtually, and we're scattered, across a lot of the country. And it's nice. A lot of us haven't been together in the same room in quite a long time. Part of that's because of geographic distance, and then also just because of the whole COVID business. But it's going to be a lot of fun to be together as a family, as a team-oriented aspect, but also as as the greater IBC kind of family comes together in a all-in-one building. It's just kind of nice to see. So I always love that. That's an area where I get really inspired and enjoy. And hearing your story, how you're implementing Sean's tool that he shared with everybody, and my perspective, again, this kind of goes back to the Colby we were talking about earlier. Is I'm a simplifier. And that's probably too much energy and effort that you're putting in that I would want to do. So I try to keep it even simpler than that. I don't track anywhere near that well. And because of it, I'm not tracking as well. I may not be seeing the same level of gratification or success to the point that you are, but I'm also like, how much energy do I got to put in to do that tracking? I want to control my energy inputs a little bit. And so I do a lot less tracking in relation to how you're doing it. But I think what you're doing is fantastic. And one day maybe I'll get there, or maybe I'll just convince someone else in my family to do it so that I don't have to. That's another
who, not how, right?
Who, not how, yeah.
Like I said, you and I are very similar in that way. All I'm really doing, all I did was originally I just said, okay, I'm just going to start with one loan. I know that I bought this microphone, that camera, and my tripod. When I downloaded the spreadsheet, so thank you, Sean, he did make it available again to our teammates, but also it's available to our clients. They can go on there and they can download the spreadsheet. Super robust and very intuitive. But I downloaded it and I started playing around with it, and I just put in one loan. I just said, I'm just going to put in this one loan. And then I put it in there, and then I was like, oh, that was pretty easy. And then I just now I have probably 20 loans in there. They're all just there. So now I just got to spend a couple of minutes each month when I go to make the payment to look at what I have to send in, and then I just have to update, okay, made a payment type of thing. I say payment number 2, my tracker will go from, let's say it's 12 payments. It'll go from 11 payments down to 10. It'll tell me exactly the balance of the loan that's left there. And I'm totally with you. But yeah, it's just something that I'm slowly kind of integrating. We were talking about atomic habits earlier, and yeah, it is so far. It's one of those things. You're probably like this with me too. It might take me a little while to get started sometimes, but when I start seeing or doing something, and then I can start seeing the benefit, I kind of get hooked. I kind of get it. You kind of get a little addicted to it, right? So now I'm kind of I like kind of popping open my policy loan tracker and adding things to it and making sure that I'm fulfilling on my commitment that I make. Because now that I'm doing the tracker, my brain won't let me not do it now.
Right. Yeah, that's right. It's atomic habits. That's what it's all about. And then that's one of the things that the book talks about is, the thing that it's easier, something that you really don't like that makes a habit, makes you form a habit because you don't want to have this bad result continue to happen, or it's something that you really like. And so what makes it easier to enforce and do those habits is that there's a reward on the other side. And this reward is a very powerful reward because you log in and you take a look at your policy portfolio and your loan portfolio, like, oh, look how much loans went down and access went up. And, and then you're looking at, okay, upcoming in the next 90 days, what are some of the, big picture target items I have where I'm going to need access to capital for? So part of that diligent items, at the end of the day, we all want to have more success in our financial life. We are all different people. So one of the things that we do teach people is that, look, here's our method, here's our way of doing it. But because your natural way of doing things might be different than somebody else's. You know,
Yes.
some people are more inclined to be a little bit more detailed. They're going to be, you know, excited about messing around with a spreadsheet. Whereas other people, if they're not doing it, you know, in physical paper or whatever, then they can't see it, then they're not going to see the same success. So we try to help coach to what works for you. We're going to give you some tools and some ideas, and then implementing and recognizing what Nelson taught us. If you get and focus on the primary conceptual level of what's happening, don't take a policy loan unless you have a purpose for the loan and a intention on how you're going to pay it back. You know, when Nelson says don't steal the peas, what he means is, if you take a loan, put the money back in, put back more than you took out. Okay. And if you put back more than you took out, you're paying yourself, quote unquote, a spread of interest. Great. That fundamentally means there will be more money available for you to work with in your overall financial resources, because the money that you intentionally paid yourself didn't disappear to some other frivolous crap running through your life. It didn't go to, you know, 45 double doubles last month at Tim Hortons and 14 donuts or whatever that you went and got. It went to some strategic area of your life. Well, I mean, it's Friday. I mean, it could be a good day for a donut. But that little premise is a very simple, like, the concept of paying yourself first has been around for a very long time. Yes. A lot of people talk about you got to pay yourself first, but people don't really know how to do that. It seems so simple, but yet it's so ambiguous that they're like, they get stuck on what the how is. Well, the how is really simple. You go get a well-designed, high cash value participating insurance policy that builds like a cash machine over your entire lifespan. I don't care who the body is. That's an amazing way to pay yourself, because you have a forced payment in your life. There's a premium that must be paid, and then there's a big flexible portion, which is optional but highly important. It's a turbo booster for the insurance, and you get to build and design that with your coach. Then as you get that machine working, now you have capitalization taking place. Now there's things you need to do in life. Boom, you have access to a resource of capital that you own and control and can use, and you have habits and skills, coaching, mentorship, tools and resources to begin implementing that, so that you're improving little bits and pieces along the way. You know, there's a saying about the death of 1,000 paper cuts. Well, those money leaks that you and Roman talked about, that's how we have money disappear out of a life, and it has a compound effect over a lifespan. So if we can close those leaks, and we can harness the potential of that money by being focused with our energy and focused with our habits, more financial prosperity comes to you. And that's why we teach people, this isn't about an insurance contract. This is about how you think. Nelson would say it's all about how you think. It's all about how you think. It's all about how you think. And that's how he would say it. He would begin every presentation he would do, every seminar, with that statement.
Yeah, that's so good, Rich. You nailed it. A couple things. The reason why I was pointing to those specific words on there, your own. You know, the key words are your own. So just because maybe Vern or whoever uses this tracker and Richard does it his way, well, that's because that's Richard's bank and that's his family and that's how he runs his bank and that's what works with him, right? So every client's banking system and how they operate it is going to look as different as their thumbprint. That's the first point that I wanted to make. And the other point was when you were talking about paying yourself first. You know, some people say that. Am I really paying myself first if I put my payment quote into some savings account at someone else's bank? It's really kind of paying them first. So what I want to do is I want to build a system with a contract that has guarantees at a company that I co-own, where I get to participate in the profit. And every time I drop that premium in there or a loan repayment, I'm truly paying myself first, because I'm the one who gets use and control over that money. And it's actually being put to work for me and my family rather than somebody else's. So you hit some good points there.
There's a spot in the book, and I'm just trying to remember where it is. I believe it was somewhere near like page 37 or 36 or something. And it talks about, you know, Nelson talks about the First National Bank of Midland, Texas. The whole purpose of putting in the book is to help people understand, how do you kill the best business in the world, a bank? The First National Bank of Midland, Texas was the most like profitable bank per capita population base in the United States, you know, for quite a long period of time, you know, a lot of oil money and stuff like that. And then the shareholders of the bank, they all got onto the greed money cycle of everyone's making, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever in the oil business, and there's all these oil projects where they're trying to find oil and discover oil, and so they're now getting involved. Well, what do? They're taking loans out of the bank that they own. They're the main like shareholders, but they weren't paying the loans back. They were non-performing loans.
Right.
And because they weren't paying the loan back, there was no capitalization left in the bank. They'd stripped all the money out and they weren't making repayments. And then oil went down and everything kind of, went bad. And so the actions and the habits of the shareholders running that bank caused a major problem that caused that bank to fail. And that, thousands of people were out a lot of money. The depositors, everybody had a problem because of the poor habits and poor decision making and the lack of knowledge and understanding of banking in general for the people that own that bank. That whole story is there to teach us an important lesson. Again, we sound like we're kind of, on a wheel here of just a repeat, but it's all about how you think. You, the policy owner's behavior is far more important than the behavior of the insurance company in this process.
Yeah, and I know we're running out of time here, Rich, but you're exactly right. Just one quick point about the unseen, about those money leaks. If I spend the money, you talked about the compounding factor of that basically working against you because, you spent the money, it's gone, it's no longer working for you. You can't really see that. But to contrast it, what's really cool is going back to my loan tracker, even if you make lump sums or do whatever it is that you're doing, the cool thing is you actually kind of can see the benefit of when you're paying it back to your system, you're putting back more than what you use, plus your cash flow is rising every day. You can actually see, I equate that as, oh, that's me actually recapturing that lost opportunity cost on those dollars. When I put $4,200 in and there's $4,500 there for me to borrow, where'd that $300 come from? That's just from the way that I think, the way that I structured myself, the way that the policy, the tool that I choose to warehouse my capital in, the way that it works, it allows me to recapture that interest and have more capital available to do more things with for my family. So I just wanted to kind of share that because I'm just super. Now you got me all jacked up, man. I'm gonna go do some jumping jacks or something before my next meeting. Otherwise, I'll be talking 1,000 miles a minute.
Well, I mean, maybe for me, I probably should be talking 1,000 miles a minute. It would get me through my meetings a lot faster, because my meetings always. We were talking earlier how my meetings always go over time, but we covered a lot of ground here today, dude.
It was great.
But for everyone that's tuned in and for the folks who are watching on YouTube, make sure you continue your journey of learning. There should be another set of videos that's going to pop up here shortly. And I bet you one of those is going to be pretty fantastic. It might have my face, it might have Vern's face or somebody else. Go ahead and click it and watch that next video because you're going to learn a ton. Thanks for being with us today and make your day amazing and make your financial life fantastic.